Hey guys, it's me here. Today we'll be reading Trash by Andy Mulligan. We're not doing layout reviews today. So let me just find part 5 at page. Part 5. Chapter 1. Raphael, Gardo, and June Rat. The Day of the Dead is about our biggest festival year out there. Bigger even than Christmas and Easter together. It was 10 million candles. Get lit and ghosts come up. Walk around arm in arm, and everyone goes to see the departed ones who stand up out of the ground say hello. That was why the traffic soon got slow, and before too long we were in a long jam. At last, a taxi dropped us the road that led off the cemetery, and we walked in the smell of flowers. There were crowds pushing everywhere. People walked with kids and babies in their arms. Whole big family. And some of the men had tables. Sorry about that. Their heads and chairs stacked on trolleys. They had cases of beer, great big bottles of water, and ice carriers were dragged. Shares with my teacher. I actually have behind the scenes my phone again. Let me just share. Back to normal. Great slabs of ice shouting for a way through, little stoves, bags of food, and people dressed up as best they could as if for a carnival. Little girls in new dresses and the boys in ties. Even though it was a hot morning, this is the day when your family is together again. You set up a house by the grave and sit and chat and eat and drink right on to midnight. By the time it gets to evening, the whole cemetery and glittering with candles, and that's when they say you need an extra chair and extra glass. That's when you can turn around and dead grandma's right beside you, old bones, in whatever you buried her, smiling away with hundreds of stories to tell. That's when the kid you lost is playing around at your feet again. And if you had some congenital with brother who died, you can talk it through and settle. Sorry, I can't see very well in it's dark. I'm gonna go upstairs because that seems like a good place. So let's just sit on my couch. Sit on my couch. It's my mom.
Hi.
Okay. So, uh, Father Juliar told Rat all about the rescue attrition one time, and I guess it is that what we talked about. Rat says, I've never seen it of the course. Never seen it, the course. But then, I have no family here. Do you believe in ghosts? Drew and San Paulo. Island, where I'm from. People say they came from out of the sea sometimes. If a boat goes down, they come into the village, said, as said, and cry by your door all night. What do I know through? I'd see nothing like this around us. The flower shacks got thicker and were overflowering with flowers till the scent lifted you off your feet. There were stores with sweet little Bible verses. Plastic. Sorry about this. I actually have to go turn on the light. Red quality. Be right back. Back to normal. Status. Liquids and postcards. The lottery sellers were everywhere, carrying was wads of tickets and shouting after all. We came to the candle stalls. So many candles, thick and thin, tiny as your fingers, or too big to carry. Back from them, there were food stalls, doing good business, and the three of us stopped and ate some fish because we were hungry again and hadn't had breakfast. So let me just set my phone uh, right uh, there. Continue. Raphael, I cleaned the blood off my arms, and Gardo said it was time for a plan. Opening up the Bible, we sat and eating and reading, and nobody bothered us because who's going to get upset about even the street kids if they're reading the Bible on All Souls Day? There was a breeze again, getting stronger. Still, all that flower smell, and we could feel the freak typhoon coming in on us again, ripping at tents. It was going to be hard keeping the candles lit, so there were lots of people buying little jars. Lots of people buying little jars for the reason. I said, where we lay, I scratched my head, I guess. He he's buried here. Does that make sense? He won't be buried anywhere. I said, this is Gardo. The police killed him. He's going to be burned up by now. And then the trash. Also, he must have wrote all that before he died. That was true, and we all agreed. But also, though, what if his wife's buried here? If we find that case, then where we lay could mean the family grave, and that's where we decided to look for. Just, yeah, so I got my phone on behind the scenes. So let me just exit out of that. No, not from strange noises. Just gonna continue it. So, is going to. Sorry, just notification. Just gotta clear that. Better. Right now, I felt bad then because that meant reading was needed. I couldn't read, and that meant I'd be no use. There was nothing for through, so we finished our fish and started, and I carried the papers and the book. It followed on. It followed on. Like I said, it's the biggest graveyard in the city once. Through the gates, there were stretching the mouth. We were soon lost in graves, trees and mountains. There were bushes and shrubs, and as we walked, great big angels would suddenly appear at you and fill leaves, peaceful looking mountain nests, looking into the distance and weeping low. Jesuses on tiny little crosses, and the big brother Jesuses stretched out with eyes up to heaven. I had never been watched over by so many things, and nearly got split up from the boys looking at them. The tails were going up and we're opening the parties. We're starting soon. Bruh and Garno knew. They never find one man in these moments. We can ask, so I'll find out. There's an office. This list of names is a big risk. Everything is Gargoyles looking around. Still looking. Everyone's been that way. Said I will do it. I pretend Mrs. Angelico did me a good turn, and that I've come and said hi. So Garno can't take me back a bit for my money. Whew. Sorry about this. Just so uh you can actually get this at barnesandnoble.com actually. So I'll actually pretty soon have a link in my next trash part in the description. Get back. Uh Become the money man after the deal with Marco. Get her sunflowers. He said then they'll make it real. That's what I did. It took 3 hours for more. But it was a big group of people. And they kept getting shot back. And I got guard to see me. She said you need 20 to check the record, which was a lie. But we gave it to him. And my dog. And took pages, answering all sports of other questions from people. So I just met with my flowers, hoping we won't forget. And also, it was late afternoon, and I got myself paper and good. And I've been off drinking the 24/8. I said to Ralph, he says, top of the slope and look for an angel. It was getting dark. So Gardo, can you see the pink in the dark? Raphael led the way, strong again lane. 21 minutes now. Raphael strong again and ready. Raphael now. It was getting busier and busier became everything the busiest part of the day. There were barbecues starting up now and people selling snacks. We were only just want to see people in very fancy clothes and we felt even grayer and dirtier. Not too bad. I see a pink one and I was ready. Good. The first car wasted our time, but then Gardo saw one marble on the grave, the size of the truck, and the candles. It was pink and sand, and it was starting to go up to see arms up. This score and a half of a goal by the great big family were sitting around it, playing cards, and there were brandy bottles everywhere, and more people arriving, hugging each other. We left into it, and out of the wondering what E24/8 might mean, and looking for the same Angelico and find him soon. And it was completely dark and we couldn't read the names anymore, so we went back with pink angel and climbed up on the wall nearby and wondering what to do. And, and that is when we saw the brightest light. Chapter 2, Part 5, page 199. That's where we're going to be tomorrow. Or should I have my mom read it? Mom?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Can you do part 2 for my live, chapter 2 for my live stream?
Chapter 2?
Part 5.
Chapter 2, Part 5.
I'll face the camera towards my mom.
All right, I'm here.
Yeah.
All right, Chapter 2. Raphael, Gardo, and Junjun, the rat. We've been looking in the wrong place, and the fool of a guard who took our money must have thought we knew the cemetery and didn't bother to explain, or was just too lazy. The cemetery, you see, is divided by a wall, and that was the wall we were sitting on. The wall divides the rich quarter, where the dead get buried in earth, from the poor quarter, where the dead get stacked up in boxes. We'd wasted the day walking among the rich when we should have been on the other side of the wall. The brightest light was the poor part of the cemetery, where thousands of candles were coming together as everyone streamed in after work. It was bright as day, bright as a furnace, and the candles were moving in great rivers as people made their way to their loved ones. It was like a little town down there, with narrow streets all through the tombs. B24/8 would be the number of one of the concrete boxes. Raphael. I remember Gardo looking at me and smiling, and then Rat gave me a hug because we cracked it again. We jumped down and came to a little broken doorway that led you into the other side. Right away, we saw a sign in the candlelight. High up on one of the grave stacks, it said G9, so we moved past it, trying to work out the system. It really was like a town. People lived in this part of the cemetery. They had houses there. There were little shanties built around the back of the grave boxes. There were shacks up on top, too, little huts and bits of plastic. And to get to them, we climbed ladders. We could see kids running on the tops with a kite, getting it up into the typhoon breeze. So many people always. And it struck me again what my auntie used to say. There is nowhere people will not live. We passed so many graves. Saddest were the open ones, the ones that were broken open. And everyone knows that story, and I found myself looking away. Each little concrete hole cost the family $2,005 for 5 years. You cannot buy a box, you see, you can only rent one. After 5 years, you pay again, or the box is taken back. And people move away, or people spend the money. And sometimes the payment just doesn't get made. So what happens? The sledgehammer is what happens. They break open the seal and out comes the body. There's a part of the cemetery where old bones are thrown and left to rot amongst the trash. Somebody's child or somebody's grandma out in the rubbish like a dog. The empty hole scared me because nothing is more sad than that, and I didn't want to look. They leave the bodies in there for a few weeks sometimes, hoping they'll be claimed, because I guess nobody likes throwing people away like that. Gardo. I was working it out though. I led them around the back and talked to some kids perched up on the grave stacks. They pointed, and we found the track that was D, then C, then B. So then we came along counting, 15, 20, and 22. 4 graves up, and there she was. We found her. Maria Angelico, wife of Jose Angelico, picked out on a little stone plaque. Raphael and me climbed up and leaned in to read because the words under the name were small. The brightest light, they said, and I went cold because those words were the ones we'd been following and what we'd seen, and it was all coming together. We were close to the end. Around the words were scorch marks from the candles that had been lit. Raphael read the words out to Rat, calling it loud because there were people everywhere and a lot of drinking going on and a lot of laughter. I looked at the box underneath and I called that out too. Eladio Joe Angelico, I said, my good son. Raphael grabbed me and said, we're where we're supposed to be. This is his boy. I said, I know that. That was clear. But I was also thinking, what's there to find? We found the poor man's family grave. Is that really such a big deal now? This sad man, whose face we first saw when he found a wallet on the dump site. He loses his wife and his boy, and we're poking around hunting his money.
Oh,
He couldn't have hidden it here. We're where we should be, I said, but he can't have put it in a grave. I agree, said Rat. How would he do it? What's that one up there? Said Raphael, looking up. Is that his as well? He was looking at the stone above the man's wife, and I had to climb higher to see that one. It was clean and new, and the words were harder to read because the light was bad. So Rat handed me up a candle, and I figured them out slowly, Raphael helping. Seeds, I said. Something about those seeds again. Then it says, to harvest. My child, it is something long. I can't see. Accomplished, we said together. It is accomplished, I said. It is accomplished. Love and hope. And there's a name, just a little name. And I traced it with my finger. Raphael. The name on the stone was Pia. Then Dante. Pia Dante. I looked down at Rat. Oh my, I said, and I felt so sad. That's the little girl. I thought of the photo of the little schoolgirl with her wondering eyes, and I felt so bad. We'd all thought she was alive, or hoped she was. Rat said, he lost everything, man. He was sending her to school, I said. That's what the paper said. It was in the letter too, said Gardo. The letter to Mr. Alondres. If it comes to your hand, then you know I am taken. Ask after my daughter, please. Use any influence you have, for I am afraid for Piedante now. We were quiet a moment, and then I jumped down. What now? I said. What are we expecting to find here? What do we do? Gardo said, I don't know. I said, a message maybe? Look for another message? Where? Said Rat. Where's he going to put it? We all looked around wildly, maybe thinking there'd be a letter or some other clue. But it seemed pretty hopeless. It all seemed like a dead end. We've got this far, said Gardo, getting angry like he does. There must be something. Nothing, said Rat. Where's there to look? And what are we looking for? I think he was taken and killed before he could do anything. Maybe the police have been in Goddard, I said. They trapped it other ways, maybe. Gardo sat down again. Why is this so crazy? He said. I sat next to him, and we thought and thought, but there was nothing to think. Then, right by us, a big family arrived, pressing into the graves with a load of candles and a cooking stove. So we moved off across the path and found a quieter place higher up. Look, I said. I couldn't let it go. If he had all that money, if he got away with it, If he really had a fridge full of money, are we thinking he buried it here with his wife and kids? Why would he do that? To come back later and get it, said Rat. No one's going to break open a paid-for grave, are they? The police would, said Gardo. If they had even one slight suspicion. That's why the code. If the police had got the letter we got, if they did what we did, went to the prison and saw Mr. Gabriel, he would not have let on about the Bible and the book code. So they would never have got this far. He smiled and said what we all knew. The man was smart. Okay, said Rat. So Jose Angelico knew he could trust Gabriel Alindros. Gabriel was like the guardian of it. Without him, it was never found. If it's in there, even. You think it's in there, I said? It's in one of them, said Gardo. Maybe. You want to break open 3 graves, I said? I couldn't believe I was even thinking about it. I knew I couldn't do it. Gardo stood up then. He walked up and down, and I could see him thinking so hard his eyes were bulging, getting madder and madder. It can't be, he said. You don't do that, do you? You don't bust open your family grave. What about the empty one? Maybe there's a broken one nearby. We looked around, and there were several. You could see what looked like trash or maybe bones. Who wanted to sort through that? One thing for sure was they weren't places you'd leave anything valuable. Gardo was beginning to lose his cool, and I could see why. He'd come all this way and had the police all over us. He'd almost been taken, fought his way out, and all for nothing. He looked at me and said, "What do we do, Raphael?" And I didn't know. I just looked at him, and Rat was looking from him to me, then back again. It was just at that moment, as we were gazing around, when I heard a voice. It was a small voice, and it was calling down to us, and it was almost blown away by the wind. But we just caught the sound and looked up to see a tiny little girl. "What are you looking for?" she said. And that takes us to chapter 3, starting on page 206. So I'm going to hand the book back to my son.
It's actually really short. Yeah, so I think when I'm playing. Chapter 3 is actually really short.
Are you reading it tonight, or are you saving that for another day?
We're reading it tonight.
Okay.
38 minutes in. Raphael, Gardo, and Junjun Rat. She was sitting up on the graves higher than us. So she was looking down. She was heard. It was hard to see because, like I said, she was so small and there weren't so many candles there. She had long black hair and was sitting her hands in her lap. She was wearing a school dress. Rat said, "What did you say?" The little girl said, "Who are you looking for?" Raphael said, "Jose Angelico." "I don't think he's coming," said the child. He didn't know what to say for a moment. And then Gardo said, "Did you say he would when all staring up at her?" She was just s- staring down, so still. The, the breeze blew her hair, but she was like a little statue about a week ago. She said quietly, I've been waiting. Gardo said, I don't think he's coming either. Why don't you come down here? What's your name? Rat said softly. What are you looking for? I'm not looking for anything, she said. I just came here to wait for him. But where you live here, I don't know.
So did you have a special guest, Julie?
No. What is his name? Jelly. By yourself. Watching Pia Dante. She said my name, Pia Dante Angelico. And I'm waiting for my father, Jose Angelico. Now I, Raphael, speak only for myself and not for the other boys. But I went to Stone Cold after all. I nearly fell down. I heard Rat breathe sharply too, and take a pace back. Her hair was still blowing, and she looked solid enough, and her voice was a child's voice. But my first thought was that we must be talking to a ghost because we'd seen her grave with our own eyes. The child was looking across at it. -B25/8 the grave with her own name on it in brand new stone, and she was waiting for her dead father on death's day. What is kind of what is that? Uh, I can pet him for you and you can read.
Okay.
So I'm going to be on the other side just petting my cat.
All right. So now we are on chapter 4.
Let me just get my mom's phone
She
right
was
there.
no ghost, of course. When we got ourselves together, we helped her climb down. Rat went up and helped her because she was small, and we decided to take her out of there fast. Things were getting so strange. We were all having the same idea straight away, but we needed to get clear for a while. Little Pia was so weak she could hardly stand up. And then we all realized none of us had eaten properly, and we thought, we've come this far. The police aren't going to trace us here. Can we just get a moment to think? Gardo counted up the money, and we were low. Our stash was down to a few hundred only, but we all needed food. Little Pia most of all. I tell you, she was skin and bone to touch, and dirty all over. She smelled bad. We went right out of the cemetery and found a shack and ate chicken and rice, thinking we might as well eat good. We so needed it. We were at the end of the trail we had to be, and even at that point, before we talked, we knew what was happening. We were getting excited, frightened, jittery, cold and sweaty, like a fever. Rat and Pia were just about the same size, and he could see she was in a bad way, more than me and Garda. He'd been starved like that and scared out of his wits, so he knew what to do. He made her eat really slow, mixing gravy into the rice and feeding her. He got her water and made her drink it. And then he found her some banana, which he chopped up small like she was a baby. In a way, she was a baby. She was scared, but she was so weak she didn't know what to do. And we still think Rat saved her life. She told us she'd been in Navarro for a week. Narava, sorry. She'd been in Narava for a week to meet her father. It was a place they often went together because her little brother and her mother were there. Some children had found her and taken her to one of the shanties. She'd been fed a bit and asked questions. She kept going to her mother's grave and waiting. And of course, she wasn't tall enough to read her own name on the grave above. Or if she did, it didn't mean anything to her. She never said anything about it. Her father had sent her a message to meet him, and whoever looked after her had taken her there and left her. They must have read about his death and knew they were well rid of her, what with no more rent coming in. Pia Dante was alone. Gardo. We talked to a boy at the eating house, and for 50 got her space out the back for the night. And Rat laid her down and got an extra blanket because the typhoon wind was cold for a child. I saw him smoothing out her hair, wrapping her up, talking to her and promising we'd be back to look after her. Then he came back over to me and Raphael. He was crying. I'm putting that in because I think it's important. It's the only time we ever saw Rat cry. All of us knew now that this was the time to thrash it all out and do the final plan. We ordered tea, and I, Gardo, spent 70 on a bottle of brandy. And I made us all take 3 fingers because what lay ahead was the hardest. And yet, in a way, it was also just free fall now. The plan's so clear we couldn't go outside it. 3 fingers was enough because we needed to be brave for the next bit. Braver even than my friend and brother Raphael in the police station, because nobody goes among the graves on All Souls Night after midnight, because that's when the dead are left to themselves again. So the ghosts are getting sad. We knew we had to, however, there was no question, because it was the only time we could do what we had to do. Can you blame us if we stoked up on drink? We need tools, I said, and we worked out what we needed. We're going to need a way out too, said Raphael, and we planned out our route. I said, what does $6 million look like? I think the brandy was hitting me and making me smile. All of us then, we started to laugh. For the first time in what seemed like a while. And you know what? We knew it wasn't ours, even then. It couldn't be ours. We knew that a piece of it was all we wanted. And we knew we were so close, the air was buzzing around us, as if the ghosts were above us. That much money, if it really was there. 6 million. I promise you, the only thing we all knew was that it was not ours, and we were not even trying to take more than a little. We split up to look for tools, saying we'd meet at the grave as soon as we could. We knew it without saying it. We had to go back and smash on the slab and get inside. I'm sure we agreed that, without quite saying it. Raphael went off and found a sack and a cheap old broken knife. I went scavenging close up under the shanties where the graveyard turns to swamp and sea. I found a strong iron spike. It was tying up someone's boat, so I tied it to a wooden stake and took the spike. Quiet as a breeze. Rat found rope and a plastic sheet. Don't irritate the cat.
Okay.
You can pet her, but be nice to her. Don't irritate her.
Okay, Mom.
I said to Raphael, we'll do this job fast. Once we start, we do not stop, and we hug each other. I'm Raphael. I said to Gardo, I'm going to make a noise. We do it fast, okay? We finished the brandy and felt stronger and better. Gardo again. We climbed up to little Pia's grave box. I think there were ghosts everywhere just watching. Raphael held the spike, and Rat passed up a stone. Everyone had gone, and most of the candles had blown out because the typhoon was getting closer and the wind was strong and cold, nagging at us. I didn't have a shirt, and I could feel it right off the sea. I swear I could feel them all, those dead, around me still, watching me with wide awake eyes. Dead men above and below, and dead kids and dead mothers. I could almost see them, watching and watching, so I didn't want to look up. The stone was good in my hand, just the right size. Raphael had the spike in the corner, and I leaned back and gave it the most alarming crack. The thing moved right off, and the noise was more of a thud. A real deep, dead sound. I guess because the seal was so new, it hadn't gotten itself all fixed and hard. But the second blow punched it right in, and it fell on itself in 3 big pieces. One of them falling nearly on Rat's feet, so he jumped back. Then he was up with ropes and candles right up against me, and we were lighting them fast inside the grave hole where the wind couldn't get. The air was musty, but there was no bad smell. There was a coffin, white as white, for a child, and we all felt scared, I guess. It had a layer of dust, and the flowers on it were very dead. Other than that, everything was fresh. No smell. And we all knew what dead things smell like, because people throw dead things out on the dump site. I found a dead kid once, and there was no mistaking that particular stink, once it had you in your face. We threw out the other bits of broken stone and eased her out. Back to me, Raphael. Like Gardo says, the wind was getting up, and it made us want to work faster than ever. Rat got the rope around the coffin. Then, as we slid her out, he squeezed right into the hole so he was safe and firm. That meant he could let it down to us, because $6 million in a heavy box. I tell you, $6 million in a box is heavy, if that's what was in the box. Don't forget, we didn't know that for sure. We only thought we knew, but it felt as heavy as that kind of money ought to be. We got her on the ground, and though we'd all said we'd move fast, we had to see what was inside, right there and then. The knife was our screwdriver. 8 screws held the lid, and I know, lifting a coffin lid, you think of all the evil things in the world, in a graveyard, in the middle of the night. But I think all 3 of us knew in our hearts now. So we did just those screws and lifted it. And like Gardo said, the ghosts were around us watching. Oh, sweet Lord, the money was there. The money was there. It was packed in so snug, it was like the box was made for it. You want to know what 6 million looks like? I will try to tell you. To me, sitting next to it, it looked like food and drink and changing my life and getting away out of the city forever. It looked like change. It looked like the future. I don't know what it looked like. We stared a moment and nobody spoke. We had the plan, and the plan was not finished yet. And none of us suddenly thought, let's keep it all. Nobody even suggested we change the last part of our plan. We knew the money wasn't ours, because even though I never met that man, Gabriel Olindras, the way Gardo had told us about him, I knew he was a good man, through and through. It was All Souls night, and he was there, and I hope and believe at the front of the ghost crowd, right there with us. I think he stayed with us too. I hope with Jose Angelico, arm in arm, with us all the way. And that ends chapter 4. Do you want to read chapter 5, or are you done for the night, babe?
We're actually
Yeah,
done
would
for
you
the
like
night.
to read it?
Sorry
Oh.
about that.
Sorry, Selena. Finn would like to read chapter 5. She says, meow. Meow, 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 rat. Meow, meow, rat, 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 meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow. Right, Finn? Meow, 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 merp. Purr, hack, hack, hack. Purr, merp. Meow, rat. Meow, meow, merp.
So, chapter 5, page 215. My aunt didn't want to read it, so we're just going to end it for the night. End.